guys. Hey guys, coming back to you here from Stairs Lair. Wanted to introduce something here to you, just volume of a cylinder. We're also going to do volume of a prism. But right here is the same cylinder that I showed you in the video from the first day. And all we're going to do is measure it, and you can see right behind it, we're going to fill out some topics. So think about this. We have just done surface area before that. That was really we're just finding the area on 2 dimensions, right? And that's what area is. But when we talk about volume, we're taking into account all 3 dimensions. And so that's what we're going to be looking at here. So again, it doesn't matter what unit you're measuring in. I seem to have a much better measuring tool here. I'm going to use inches. Just because that's what I'm going to do. And as always, round it even to the nearest half unit, whether it's centimeters, whatever. Obviously, feet, miles, not something that's really going to be more applicable to that. All right, so I'm going to sit here. It looks like it says the formula for the area of a circle is just half, or pi, times the radius squared. So I'm going to look at it, and you know what? That looks to be closer to 1.5 than 1. So my diameter is 1.5. Excuse me. So again, I'm measuring in inches. I'm measuring my radius. My diameter was 1.5. So I'm just going to say this is 0.75. Excuse me for a second. So now we can just find the area of that circle. Taking a look at the formula, again, it's just pi r squared. So pulling up my handy dandy calculator, 3.14 times 0.75 squared, and it looks like it's just asking me here to round it to 2 decimal places, and so it's 1.76625. So I'm just going to label it as 1.77, right? When we're taking a look at this here, this will not be on your paper. Right, so you don't have to worry about that. That's something I forgot to delete. But now we're just measuring the height. So whenever you're taking a look at it, the circles of a cylinder is always the base. Okay, so we always want to find the area of the base. We have done that. We've came up with it being 1.77 inches squared. Now I'm going to measure the height of it here. So it looks like I'm coming here, starting at the top. Looks like that's close enough to 1 inch right there, right? So I measured my height. That's just 1 inch. This right here, again, we wanted the height. So the volume of the cylinder is just 1.77 inches squared times 1 inch. And think about what happens here. I know that we're in geometry, but even in Algebra 1, we thought about multiplying exponents. The numbers itself are pretty easy to multiply. 1 times anything is just whatever that number was. But I want to talk about the label here, and we got to make sure that we're labeling it correctly, right? Inches squared times inch is just inch to the 3rd power, or all volume is always going to be cubed, or whatever your label is, centimeters, inches, millimeters maybe. But all of that to the 3rd power. All right, so there's our cylinder. We're going to take a look at a quick volume of a prism. This one, I think the paper is much more like what you were going to see here. All right, so I've got a tissue box here. It takes up most of the screen, right? Same tissue box, maybe it's a different color, I don't know. But when we're taking a look at this here, I'm going to switch off the bottom part of it. Actually, I guess I cannot. Never mind. Alright, so here we go. You can see it in the bottom right hand corner, just a volume of a prism. Remember the prism, that's always with rectangles around the sides here, and then even on the back. Okay, I could do it like this, right? Even if I hold it this way, it has a rectangle. So I'm going to measure, I'm just going to do how it would normally sit on a table. I'm going to measure again, the area of the base, and just multiply it times the height right here. All right. So I'm going to flip it upside down here. I got my base. Looks like as I'm starting, let's see if I can bring this up here. looks to be close here, if you can see it, to about 9 inches, right? So the length of that is 9 inches. If we can now measure the width looks like, you know what, just out of ease here, I'm going to say that's closer to 5 than, well, actually it'd be closer to 4.5, wouldn't it? So we're going to say the length is 4.5, right? So when we're taking a look at this here, we've got to be thinking about how we're measuring this. So what unit am I measuring in? Inches. Now you may not have a rectangle or a triangle here for the volume of prisms, but you'd have to find the area just with whatever shape it is, right? And we did that last week. Maybe you had a pentagon. You could use those triangles. Hexagon, you could use those triangles to help you figure that out. So whatever shape the base is, we know it was a rectangle, at least on mine. So I said it was going to be 9 times 4.5. So 9 times 4.5. Think about it, 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times a half is 4.5. So my area is 40.5 inches squared, right? That's the area of my base. Okay, let's bring it back here to find the height. Let's see here, how can I do this? Here's a good way to do it. So I have my height here. I'm going to find this here. It looks like it's about 2 inches high, right? 2 inches high when it would be sitting like it normally would. So we know it's 2. So we know the area of the base was 40.5 inches squared. We're going to be multiplying it times 2. Label as inches there. 2 times 40 is 80. 2 times a half is 1. So wouldn't that just be 81 inches? And again, think about the label to the 3rd power. All right. So with your objects that you took pictures of, remember to fill out those worksheets. Submit them. Please reply to your original picture. So go find your post for the cylinder. Go find your post to the prism. Hopefully you've already done the surface area. If not, again, keep submitting it. But in other words, just reply to your original post, your original picture. That way when I go down through it, I'll just see what we have there, and we'll go from there. All right, so again, continue to use those objects, and we'll be back tomorrow to see a couple more. All right, thanks guys.